Okay, so the question says given f of x equals square root of 7 minus 4x, g of x equals negative 2 over x, find f of g of x and the domain of f of g of x. First of all, excuse my writing. This is my new iPad and the screen. I'm just not used to writing on this screen. So I apologize in advance, but let's go. So first, let's try to find f of g of x. So that's same thing as f of g of x. So let me try to work this step by step. So here you're going to get f of g of x is negative 2 over x. So then here you're going to get square root of 7 minus 4 times negative 2 over x. Okay, so then this becomes the square root of 7 and then plus 8 over x. So that is the answer for f of g of x. So I'm going to box that. All right, now let's talk about the domain of f of g of x. Now here you have to be careful. So let me just write it as domain of f of g. So first of all, domain of f of g, notice that you got the square root. So whoever sits inside of the square root has to be greater or equal to 0. So let me just write that part out. So the restriction is, dear Lord, look at my handwriting. This is horrible. All right, restriction is that 7 plus 8 over x has to be greater or equal to 0. Now, every time you see the variable on the denominator, you're going to have to be careful. The reason why is this. If you look at the graph of y equals 8 over x, let me just graph that out real quick. Let me just go like this. Okay, so the graph of 8 over x is going to look like this. You'll learn this in a few sections from now. All right, but notice that the graph has a negative part and a positive part, right? So that's the reason why every time you see 7 plus 8 over x or something, some numerical value over x and then plus something, you're going to have to combine this into one fraction by getting the common denominator. Now the common denominator is x. So here, this is equivalent to, so I'm going to write this as x on the bottom, and then this one's going to be 8 over x. So what we need is 7 times x up here, and then this is going to be greater or equal to 0. Now combine that. So that means 7x plus 8 all over x has to be greater or equal to 0. All right, now here is to me, this is the easiest way to do it. So just go with it, okay? So first I'm going to draw the 3 number line. All right, let me just go 3 number lines. Okay, now the first line is dedicated for 7x plus 8. That's the numerator. Second one is the denominator, which is x. Now the bottom is the combination of both, which is 7x plus 8 all over x. All right, so now also keep in mind that this expression here means that you want this whole thing to be positive, right? But be careful, x cannot be 0. All right, but anyways, okay, so here's what you need to do. So first, find the 0 of 7x plus 8. So basically, set this equal to 0, and then you just solve for x. All right, so if I do that, then let me just go 7x plus 8 equals to 0. So you subtract 8, so you're going to have a 7x equals to negative 8, so that your x is going to be negative 8 over 7. Now jot down negative 8 over 7 on that number line. So here is negative 8 over 7. Okay, now you're going to do the same thing for x. Set x equals to 0 and solve for x. You don't really have to solve, so x is going to be 0. So I'm going to jot that out. Pretend that this is, they're all number lines, so it has to be, 0 has to be on the right-hand side of negative 7 over 8. So here it is. Now, next step is this. Be careful. Remember, x cannot be 0 because x appears on the bottom. So before I forget, I am going to keep this part open like that. All right, next step, just drop down those numbers. So here is negative 8 over 7. And then you're going to drop down. This is 0. All right, so the next step, what you need to do is this. You pick any number that lies on this part. Okay, so just pick anything, like pick one number. So do you see that the 0 is going to be on this region? Now plug 0 into the function to determine whether you're going to get a positive answer or negative answer. So if I put 0 in here, then it's going to be 8, so it's positive. So here, let me just write down on this region, 7x plus 8 is going to assume all positive values from negative 8 over 7 on. And then that means that you're going to assume negative on the left-hand side of negative 8 over 7. So just plug it in like negative 10 in place of x here. So because negative 10 lies in here, right? Then you're definitely gonna get a negative number. So that's why this is all gonna be negative. Now for x, I think that one's easy. So for x, whoever that's on the right-hand side of zeros are all positive. And on the left-hand side of that zeros are all negative. All right, now let's talk about this one. So here you're gonna have 7x over 8 divided by x. So if I have a positive divided by a positive, your answer is positive. Now, if I have a negative divided by positive, and that's going to be negative. And then if I have a negative divided by negative, it's going to be positive. Keep that in mind. So here, you're going to do the same thing. So on this region here, so what do we got? We have a negative divided by another negative. So negative over negative makes it positive. So in this region, you're going to get positive number no matter what. And then in between negative 8 over 7 and 0, what do we got going on? We have a positive, right? And then divided by a negative. So on this region, 7x plus 8 over x is going to assume a negative value. Now on the right hand side, what do we got going on? So we have on this region here, you're going to have a positive divided by another positive. So positive over a positive becomes a positive. All right, so we're almost done. So now let's go back to what we're looking for. Excuse me. So here you're looking for that this expression is positive. Greater or equal to 0 means it's positive, correct? So all you got to do is pick out where you got the positive values. So here, let me just write down, this is negative infinity. This is going to go to positive infinity. And be careful, x cannot be 0, right? Just translate it directly below in an interval notation. So where is it positive? You're going to have a negative infinity to negative 8 over 7. And then union. Now, you're going to, it's going to be positive from 0 to infinity, but it cannot be 0. So what you need to do is you have to exclude the 0 and then all the way up to infinity. So there you have it. That is the domain of f of g of x. That one was really tricky if you didn't know how to solve the, inequality involving fractions. But hope this helps.